Chapter 5. When a man arrives at great prosperity, God did it. When he falls into disaster, he did it himself. Mark Twain. Late on a waning crescent moon night, two figures appeared on the Strand approaching Manhattan Beach. One was blond and strongly built with soft features, and the other was dark-haired and mighty. They were tall, at least 7 feet, rugged and extremely handsome. They spotted the house and heard laughter and sounds of music flowing through the open windows. It was time for the Morettis' yearly family summer birthday bash, which was jam-packed with merriment and folly. It was a wild time, a chance for his sons to drink a little too much, and if the stars were aligned right in the sky, they might even get lucky with a couple of pretty girls. In June, Joe's oldest son had graduated from college and bought his first home. Wanting to impress his friends, he decided to host the annual party. He was over 21 and would be able to buy more booze than they could possibly consume. All their friends were invited. To keep the cost down, they started the party with salsa and chips. Christopher had also marinated meat overnight and cooked it to perfection on a backyard grill. Along with it, he served veggie skewers and corn on the cob. Barbecue was Christopher's passion. He made it clear with a backyard spread destined to be a home run. The twins were celebrating their 16th birthday. Joe, being the ever-indulgent father, had purchased each of them a new Beamer. His daughters were everything he hoped and dreaded. Funny, optimistic, bright, athletic, and outgoing, they were just what any young man would want. More than that, they were adorably cute. Joe was worried that they were too naive, but Christopher assured him he would be their guardian. Besides, all his friends knew they were off limits. Just as the dancing began, Joe and Grace decided to leave the party. Grace said she felt out of place and preferred to go home to watch her favorite television show. At Joe's reluctance to leave, she told him, "Let the kids have some fun and stop being such a worrywart. We'll be able to hear all about it at lunch tomorrow." The two mysterious visitors entered the house unnoticed. Standing in the middle of it, they patiently watched Joe's children. At any moment, the battle would begin. Suddenly, they could feel it. A restive, powerful, very deliberate, purposeful, and sensual kind of evil. The ministering angel spotted Lustifer hiding in the shadows. Hunchbacked, he began to weave through the crowd. The shadow had a shape, an animated, beastly shape, and was placing suggestive thoughts in the partygoers' minds. Beautiful young girls sinuously danced to the beat of the music. In the wee hours of the night, the dancers' flowing, continuous movements caused crazed thoughts to pass through the men's minds. As Lustifer planted sexual thoughts in Christopher Moretti's mind, he began to make a move on a beautiful blonde who seemed to be the center of everyone's attention. Suddenly, as if colliding with a speeding wall, Lustifer was knocked backward and into a spiraling tumble onto the floor, his glowing red breaths spewed into the air. With an eerie cry of rage and indignation, he gathered himself up off the floor and stared at the two tall strangers who blocked his path. The snarling creature screamed in pain as a powerful hand lifted it from the floor and tossed it through the open window. Together, the strangers forcefully spoke, "Go to hell!" The wings on Lustifer's back began to unfold as he flew with a rush of wind toward the highlands to tell Satan about the attack. Christopher staggered, drunk with beer. His brothers suggested he sit down and stop making a fool of himself. Soon after the partying for that summer was over, or in other words, all of the children returned to school, Joe went to confession, telling Father O'Brien of his concerns for his children's behavior over the summer. What he should have done was stop and take a deep pause, evaluate what was going on between he and his children. Instead, it was like he invited strife to come for a visit. Joe's fear was turning into a phobia. As Joe knelt and prayed at the altar, a creature with bulbous eyes looked over his shoulders. The gnarled head sat on deformed shoulders as gasps of decayed red breaths spewed in labored hisses through rows of spiky fangs. He and Joe had been acquainted for years. But, as with all humans, things had become easier as their relationship solidified. The spirit of harassment placed its talons around Joe's chest, causing him to begin to think that perhaps his children had sinned in their drunken spree. Joe's spirit sensed trouble. Up until this day, Joe had always trusted that God was in charge, that things would work out to his advantage. Sure, over the years he had concerns for his children's behavior, but he knew they were good kids. Bad things did not happen to good people. Now he was having trouble letting go and believing that God had his children in his hands. Christopher no longer valued his advice. Continuing to hold on to these cares, he held them tightly in his heart. He was sure if he pondered the problem long enough, his intellectual mind, his superior intelligence, would stumble on the answer. Sure, I've been working long hours over the years, but didn't I send them to private school to ensure their moral character? It isn't as though work is all that enjoyable. I've been doing it for them. I want them to have the best money can buy. Doesn't every parent want that for their children? I don't know any successful man who doesn't spend long hours at work. Plus, I refuse to go golfing on Sunday with my business associates. It is the day I go to church and spend time with my family. Quality time. I'm sure in God's eyes I'm a better parent than most. I've sacrificed my entire life for them. I'm sure I can figure this out. I've always done it in the past. Christopher just needs to keep his boxers from getting in a bunch.